Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Chris Rea. Welcome to the first installment of the Rhode Island Energy Efficiency and Resource Management Council's 2021 Energy Lecture Series. Today, we're talking about how you can save some money, focusing on energy efficiency in your own home. We have two great experts who are going to be walking through some of the proactive steps homeowners and renters can take to just better utilize the way that you're using your energy in your own home, save some money on your utility bills, and really make a difference in the state's efforts to build a more sustainable future here. Before we get started, we do have a couple of poll questions that we're asking folks to just let us know what your situations are. So this first one that we're going to put up on your screen and you'll see it is just what's your current living situation? Do you own your home? Do you rent your home or other? And you should see that poll coming up on your screen here. All right. Thank you very much. And now a second question, because we are going to be talking about this throughout the portion of the day. We're curious if you've ever had a home energy audit conducted in your home. We have Brian Kearney with Rise Engineering, who's going to be focused on this topic. So have you ever had a home energy audit done in your home? So it looks like we're split around 60-40 there. Thank you guys very much. So I want to jump straight into it. We only have an hour. We want to be respectful of your time. So right now I want to introduce Tony Hubbard. He's the chair of the Rhode Island EERMC representing income eligible ratepayers. He's also the CEO of Youth Build Preparatory Academy here in Rhode Island. So Anthony, if I can ask you to just turn on your camera and microphone and we can get started here.
Thank you very much, Chris. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking time out your busy schedules to join us today. As Chris said, my name is Tony Hubbard. I am the chair of the Rhode Island Energy Efficiency and Resource Management Council. I represent the income eligible ratepayers. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the EERMC was established in 2006 to oversee the procurement of energy efficiency in Rhode Island and to make sure that all Rhode Islanders get the maximum benefit from the state's energy efficiency programs. The council consists of 15 governor-appointed members representing small to large businesses, homeowners, renters, nonprofit organizations, municipalities, the environment, energy codes, and design and energy regulation and law. We do meet every month and we encourage members of the public to join and come and participate in the energy efficiency planning process. You can also learn more on our website at rieermc.ri.gov. I want to thank, I want to thank you all for joining us for the first installment of the 2021 EERMC Energy Lecture Series, an educational initiative we launched this year in an effort to shine a spotlight on some key energy efficiency issues impacting Rhode Islanders today. Today's event is focused primarily on energy efficiency at the residential level, and it will feature a conversation between EERMC Council member Karen Verrengia and Brian Kearney, the Director of Residential Services at Rise Engineering. It is no secret that the cost of heating, cooling, and powering our homes have been on the rise in the recent years. And as we head into the winter months, the costs are expected to spike as they do every winter. Over the course of the next hour, we are hoping that we can help address questions that many individuals, families, myself in Rhode Island are asking themselves. What can we do about it? Karen and Brian will lay out a few proactive steps that you can take in your home to increase energy efficiency. save money on your utility bills, and crucially, play an important role in our state's overarching efforts to reduce our carbon impact and to create a more sustainable future. Thank you again for joining us today, and I turn it over to you, Karen and Brian, to get it started. Thank you.
Tony, thank you so much. Once again, we have Karen Verrengia. She's a council member with the EERMC. She's also the chair of the EERMC's Workforce Development Task Force. In her quote unquote day job, she's a field manager at Clear Result, where she's a building operator certification course manager. We also have Brian Kearney up on your screen as well. He's the director of residential services at Rise Engineering. So Karen, why don't you take us away?
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank everyone for joining us here today. I did notice in a comment that the slides weren't in presentation mode, so you may want to check on that, Chris. Thank you, Brian, for joining us here from Rise Engineering. I have quite a history with Rise. As my former energy manager hat, I worked closely with Rise to get many K-12 schools retrofitted for lighting and heating upgrades. So I call them the Rise guys. This is the first time I'm working with Brian, however, so thank you so much for joining me and us here at this presentation today. Brian, energy efficiency is so important to me, and I know that it's important in your life. Before we get started into the conversation, I just want to remind everybody that's on the call that there's a big difference between energy efficiency and renewable energy. Today, our focus is going to be on energy efficiency. So my first question to you, Brian, is why is energy efficiency so important to you and your career and what you do for your work?
Sure. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Tony, for the introduction. Chris, for setting this up, the OER and the EERMC for creating this lecture series. I'm excited to be the first participant. And yep, Karen, right here in beautiful Cranston, Rhode Island, Rise Engineering is based. And we've been fortunate to be here providing energy services since 1979, actually. So myself personally, I always quickly harken back to my mom and my mother coming in for me as a child and following me around and turning off lights. Energy efficiency didn't mean anything to me as a kid. But as I grew up and became more focused on what I wanted to do in life and environmental efforts and sustainability, carbon reductions, energy efficiency seemed to be a really great fit. So that's where it sort of early started. I spent some time with Keyspan and National Grid as well, administering some of their programs, and I'm fortunate to have joined Rise Engineering back in 2011. And every day, it's a whole team of people here. We genuinely work towards helping Rhode Islanders. The name says it all. Rise originally stood for Rhode Islanders Saving Energy, and we do kind of carry that mission in everything that we do. So, so thank you.
Well, I think that's awesome. First of all, I did not know what RISE stands for all of these years. Who knew, right? Yeah. You learn something new every day. Thank you for that. Our next segue is going to be into the home energy audit. So I know that there was a 60-40 split on our survey. I didn't quite see if it was which way the survey went because I was looking away the moment that it was on the screen. So I don't know if it was 60% people have had them or 40%. Which was it? Do you remember?
I don't think I saw it, but either way, I see it as both an opportunity to convert who haven't, cover any questions why there might have been a barrier or a reason why they might not have been able to participate. And for those folks who have participated, I also see an opportunity as well to ask those individuals to continue to be ambassadors. If they have had a good experience, if they've made it all the way through the process and could benefit from weatherization, if they took part in that, how we see ourselves and what we get feedback from is that the overwhelming majority of customers that come to the program have had a friend or a neighbor refer them. There's a past experience where this sort of too good to be true, I can't believe how much the program provides, sort of starts a trend. And we work really hard every day to make sure that that experience is universal. Just like anything else, no one house is the same, no one situation is the same. So there's a lot of unique things that can happen, and customer situations are different. But National Grid works really hard to make sure that there's a program and an option for everyone, regardless of if they rent or how their meter is coded, what rate they fall under. And we just look to make sure that somebody's got an opportunity. And I'm happy to cover all aspects of how the audits lay out. But my hope is that we create some ambassadors after this call. I'm
definitely an ambassador.
Yes,
I've owned 2 homes and I've had 3 audits. My first home, I took the audit and we chose to do the work ourselves. My second home, when I moved into it, had no idea that in 1960s, they didn't put any insulation in the walls. So all I could picture in my mind was in the middle of the winter, my house was glowing because I was heating the neighborhood. So I had Rise come in and do the work. I broke it up into 2 separate years. So this way I could pay for it. The way that I chose was comfortable for me. Mm-hmm. And they did everything. I had my boiler changed out. And I have to say, some of the incentives at that time, which was a little while ago, and they've changed since, paid for almost half of having my boiler and my hot water heater exchanged. Mm-hmm. In the new house that I purchased, there were 2 refrigerators that were very old and I wasn't planning on using them. And there's a program out there where they not only took the refrigerators away, where normally if you would buy a refrigerator, you'd have to pay to take them away. Mm-hmm. Not only did they take them away for free, but they also gave me $50 per refrigerator. And I don't think people realize that. Sometimes I see refrigerators out on the street and I wonder why they could be getting money. Anyway, There are a lot of programs out there that I am super excited about, and I really wanted to educate everyone on all the different facets of getting money. You start with your home, but there are so many programs beyond your home. We're not going to talk about small businesses and commercial businesses and industrial, all of those things today, but there's a lot of money out there that I don't think people realize that I'm really hoping that they would tap into. Some of the things that I hear as a council member are some of the barriers, which I'll ask you about, but I'll explain the reason why I'm asking the question first and let you take it away. So a friend of mine said that she couldn't get in touch with someone to come in and have the audit because they were playing telephone tag. But when she finally did, she let me look at her audit. One of the things that I asked her over the phone was, did you have your blower door test? What was the number? Well, she didn't really know what that was. She says, I don't think I had one done. And I'm like, gee, I wonder why. Well, when I read the audit, I realized that she had knob and tube wiring in her house, which put up a red flag in Rise's eyes saying that there could be asbestos in there. So they didn't want to do the blower door test for that particular reason, but they did do the audit. So there are challenges. Another challenge as a council member that I hear a lot are renters. So you have the homeowner that needs to buy in and you have the renter that needs to buy in, or you have the renter who wants to do it and has a challenge with the homeowner. Or you have a homeowner who's having a challenge in scheduling their tenants to allow Rise to come in. So there are challenges out there, and maybe you could talk just a little bit more about them.
Sure, that's great. And in addition to that, knob and tube sounds like the customer might have had steam or asbestos, which would also preclude we recommend that we wouldn't run a blower door. And if folks want to talk about a blower door, it's basically a helpful determination of just how leaky your home is. Oftentimes I equate energy efficiency to our own body, and a warm jacket, like a wool sweater is insulation, but a windbreaker would kind of be equated to the air sealing. And when you do a blower door test, it kind of helps determine just how much you could tighten up that home and how good your jacket might actually be in the end. But yes, Rise does run the gamut for doing an energy audit. We do take leads in. Customers are calling predominantly for cost savings or comfort. Cost and comfort are 2 universal things. There are other ancillary benefits around carbon reduction, environmental benefits, some of the traditional offers around instant savings measures, water saving devices, smart strips, and lighting. Traditionally, a lot of the conversions over to LEDs over the years. The incentives do change. They're always excellent, regardless of what's happening, but they do fluctuate depending on the budgets, the goals that are set between yourselves and National Grid. And it really just starts with the homeowner taking that step. Again, friends and family give customers advice to sort of reach out and try. Landlords and renters are another sort of area there where there's a disconnect in terms of the renter often paying for the utilities and the landlord owning the property, and them being the ones who are responsible for allowing you to, for lack of a better term, put holes in your wall to insulate it. So one of the ways that we've collectively tried to overcome that barrier is by doing that work at 100%. So it's not often known that if you are a tenant and you pay your own electric or gas bill, you're eligible to get that weatherization work done at no cost at all. And there does take a little bit of coordination with your landlord. They have got to be willing to allow us to do the work, but there's definitely an opportunity there, and there's no impact to the landlord's pocket, and it ultimately helps you, save on your heating and your cooling bills. But the audit itself, it does involve either virtual. Through the pandemic, we stood up a virtual assessment, although the majority of our customers and where we kind of trended back towards was more of an in-home level assessment. So either way, we can do it remotely through a video chat, or we'll come out to your home. We do a combustion safety test, and we run through a whole host of things. We'll look from top to bottom, ask you about your energy use. Why did you call us? We check insulation levels in the attic. We check insulation levels in the walls, down around the basement and in the basement sill. We take stock of your equipment, just how efficient your heating system might be. There is the refrigerator bounty program. A secondary refrigerator oftentimes can cost as much as $150 a year to operate. And if you only use it, around the holidays, could you stand to not use that fridge full time and get it out of there and make a little money along the way? Those are some of the types of topics that the energy assessor will review with you. At the end of the day, if you do have an opportunity, they'll present you with a proposal. We work through a network of local contractors. We refer to them as IICs, or independent insulation contractors. And we assign that job out to our local weatherization contractors that are certified, they're trained, they're background checked. And we ourselves, RISE, also have an inspector that arrives on site for the job as well, to sort of project manage, do any change orders or tweaks. Sometimes there's unforeseen areas or something that comes up that the auditor didn't catch that kind of gets caught on the day of the weatherization work. And then at the end, your customer contribution, you're sent a bill. You have no interaction with the contractor in terms of paying them, on delivery or at the end of the day. And you're moving on. The stories that we hear back in terms of improved comfort, reduced energy bills, those are the ones that really kind of get me out of bed every day, and make me feel like we're doing something. It's always there's always different factors: the size of your home, the temperatures that you set it at, the number of people that live in your home. No one situation is exactly the same, but by and large, these programs do work, and you do save money, and that's how we do it.
I can definitely attest to that. When they came in and did my audit, they also changed all my incandescent bulbs to LEDs, which I thought was fantastic. That took a piece off of my shoulder to have to do as a homeowner. And they gave me power strips. I've also heard, though, as a council member, some barriers where if you live in a condominium. I thought maybe you would talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So it's always evolving in terms of what we consider multifamily or above 5 units. Oftentimes, condominiums have associations where a property manager or a board is going to be a decision maker in terms of what happens outside of your condo. And folks are homeowners. A condo is a home. They have every right to paint the walls whatever color they want and do anything inside of the home. But oftentimes we're adding venting or cutting a hole in the roof to vent a bath fan, for example. And sometimes the condo associations want to be involved in that. The other thing that comes into play with condos is that many of them are identical in terms of design or footprint to a variety of condos in your complex, for example. So if you have unit A, B, and C, unit A, there might be 15 unit A's. So if we were to be able to go in and audit one unit A, we would have a pretty good understanding about what would it need to take to weatherize all of the unit A's. So for economies of scale and helping save ratepayer dollars, which all of you are doing and paying into funds, we can oftentimes package that offer and provide you with what's available without actually having to go into your unit. And then we work with the contractors to competitively bid that work because they're right in the same spot and they're doing a repeat of that so they can prepare. And that allows us to help save ratepayer dollars by offering all the same program benefits, but just in a tighter package with your condo association signing off on us taking any steps.
I'm so glad that you mentioned ratepayer dollars, because everyone on their energy bill, whether it be their electric or a gas, has a line item that says energy efficient programs. And that money goes into a pot to be able to provide all of these services. So there are two things that I want to just mention here. The first thing is, when I was an energy manager, I brought that electric bill to the high school's teachers meeting. And I highlighted that electric bill and handed it around across the room. And they were amazed to see that that one line item on that one electric bill was over $1,000. And I did it to prove a point that if we're not taking advantage of these programs, if we are not doing everything that we possibly can do to save energy, number one, that line item is higher because you're using more and it's based on what you use. And number two, it's like throwing our own money away. Why wouldn't you want to spend this money and get that line item down on your bill and take advantage of the savings that you will have throughout the lifetime of living in your home? So you can take your paycheck into the bathroom and just put it in the toilet and flush it, because basically, if you're not taking advantage of these programs, that's what you're doing. But one of the other things that I wanted to talk about was financing. So you hear about all of these great programs and, you get that 60-40 split. And I'm wondering, it doesn't matter which half was 60 or 40, but if you haven't taken advantage of this, I'm just wondering why. Some of the barriers that I hear about is financing. They don't understand all the different financing mechanisms that are available out there to make whatever it might be as far as your own out-of-pocket costs a little bit easier. I think there's financing on your bill, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe talk about the different mechanisms, if you would.
Sure. So in a commercial environment, and what could talk, hopefully no one's energy efficiency charge at their house is $1,000. That
No.
Please call me. So those types of entities, small businesses, they can do on OBR, on bill repayment. They can do an on bill financing. However, for residential, we have what's referred to as the heat loan. Specifically, it helps customers overcome their customer contribution for weatherization, for example. The incentive now is 50% off up to $4,000. The average weatherization job that we see hovers right around that $4,000. So the remaining portion, which would be a customer share balance, can be financed at 0% up to $25,000. And in addition to that, one of the major draws of the heat loan as well is, like you said, replacing a heating system, or now becoming more and more prevalent, adding energy efficient heat pumps or cold climate heat pumps, and financing what would be a customer contribution for that, not covered by some of the rebates. So there is a program. It's very successful. Again, it's 0%, which is hard to beat. There are a variety of local banks that participate in that. And then for customers who have less than perfect credit, there's also the Capital Good Fund, which does review your credit score, and you can even get financing if a traditional bank would say that you weren't able to participate through that channel. So there is financing. Folks often, there's been a lot of movement, home buying and things like that through the pandemic, and prices are going up. one thing that folks don't often think about is cost of ownership and what those electric bills are going to be. So it is
over
a
the
conversation
lifetime
that
of
we have.
living in the space.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
we really do try and encourage folks to take advantage of it. So much of your energy efficiency is also your own behavior,
Yes.
and how many things you use and plug in. Sometimes when your house is warmer, you may not have actually used the heat because you might have had trouble paying for it. And now that your house is warmer, you can finally heat an area that you traditionally didn't, or a part of the house that you closed off. So we're always trying to strike that balance and definitely help customers just improve their comfort and way of life
Yes.
inside their own home, and that long-term investment is going to occur. What's shocking to me, and my spouse's propensity for watching television, is that our cable bill is more than twice what our electric bill is. So sometimes folks have to kind of do the math on what's important to them, but you are paying into that fund. Just some comments about your system's benefit charge or your energy efficiency charge. There is a way to take advantage of it. And sometimes you're passively participating as well by purchasing something at a big box store, or you're getting a home energy report encouraging you to change your behavior or adjust your behavior. I know someone asked a question about that. Those are where some of your funds are going as well. So just to cover that. So
first, I want to thank Chris, because if you don't have your chat open, you may want to open it. Chris is putting a lot of links in there that help to lead you to the things that we're talking about. A lot of times people just don't want to do the research, and I don't blame them, because it can be daunting, especially if you're not very computer savvy. So thank you, Chris, for putting in those links. I truly appreciate that myself. But another avenue that I wanted to talk a little bit about was the income eligible, because the income eligible program is like above and beyond. People who have an elderly parent who's living on a fixed income, a single mom who has kids and they're living on a fixed income. There are so many scenarios that you don't think about that could actually qualify you for the income eligible program, which is a little bit different than the RISE program, because the income eligible program has other avenues of financing that can help you change out your refrigerator, change out your boiler, maybe not have as much of a customer cost to it, or any cost at all to that customer. And you're doing a disservice if you're not looking into that income eligible, those parameters, because there's so much out there that can help them. And I think of it as health and comfort. So making your home as healthy as possible, making it as comfortable as possible, is actually going to save you so much money. And those are things that I think are important. I know that RISE doesn't oversee the income eligible, but maybe you could talk just a little bit about the different opportunities that are available out there.
Yeah, certainly. Being on the what's referred to as the market rate side, we work in close conjunction every day. Customers are reaching us, customers are reaching cap agencies, and we're making sure that everyone has the right place, so everyone's in the right place. So yes, income eligible is a great program. It starts with making sure that if you feel like you need help on your electric or your gas bill, or even your home heating oil, you can start by calling National Grid to discuss what your current rate is. That determines where you would potentially be served for energy efficiency services. So actually, Clear Result administers through all the local cap agencies, the community action programs. And if you don't know who your cap agency is, you can Google it. There's a list online. But there is someone in your area that represents you from a local cap agency. And it's fuel assistance. And then if you are on a discount rate, I believe it's up to 20% off of your electric or gas bill for getting on that specific rate. And it does open a whole host of opportunity that you can take advantage of in terms of electrification. Like you said, they'll help you replace a refrigerator. Oftentimes, there are things that we could benefit from in terms of insulation, but something might be precluding them from doing that you need to overcome before you're able to move forward. So you talked about knob and tube, for example. And if you are in that income eligible classification on your rate, it opens up even further opportunity for heating system replacement, knob and tube abatement, vermiculite abatement, which can allow the company to move forward. So the CAP agency does conduct the energy assessment. They use a lot of the same local contractor network that we do, the weatherization contractors throughout the state. And it's a great program. It's something that folks should take advantage of. And they do come with different funding streams. It's a blending oftentimes of federal funds, DOE, WAP funds, and you all put everything in the right bucket, which doesn't matter to the homeowner. At the end of the day, they're looking for help, and the help is there, and it's up to us collectively to figure out how to get it done.
You know, I had a friend call me and tell me that they had been unemployed. They had just recently lost the job. The pandemic kind of turmoil, not unemployed totally. They will be brought back at a future date, but they were hitting on a hard time because of that unemployment. And I suggested to her to look up the CAP agencies in her neighborhood. She was across the border in Massachusetts, but I helped her get to those resources. And I just sent them to her and I let it go from there and let her do what she would with them. She texted me a couple of months later, thanking me profusely. She says, I had no oil in my tank. They came in and gave me $980 worth of oil to heat me for the winter because she had gotten laid off right before the winter and she was scared. And I didn't even realize how scared she was. Of course, when you're unemployed, it's a scary thing. You're not secure. You don't know what your future holds. So I really didn't think about that intensity. I just kind of wanted to help her and lead her in the right direction. They also put her on a different rate base temporarily. So she was paying a little bit less on her electric bill and she was so incredibly happy. And you don't think of that. You don't think of your neighbor next door, your friend, when they say that they might be unemployed or something's going on in their life. You don't think of that. But there are so many resources out there that you can lead people to, which I think is so important. Go ahead, Brian.
No. I was just going to say, from the CAP agency perspective, that near term, that sudden exposure about costs and what they're being faced with, you don't have to have a W-2 or an annual. It can be your immediate situation. The CAP agency, they do this all day, and there's a lot of people to help. And regardless of your situation, if you do sort of have an immediacy to it, you should encourage you to reach out and give you a call. You don't have to wait. You don't have to have some sort of filed tax return or anything like that to prove income. They'll work with you. Yeah.
So what do you see, Brian, for, I don't know, current trends, things in the future, things that might be happening?
Hopefully this has been helpful. That, there's oftentimes there's nothing new in energy efficiency. I've been fortunate to do this for well over a decade, and insulation is still insulation. The benefits, that it doesn't go out of style. But things that change are, how do we reach more customers? How do we reach customers that have some of these challenges? So some of the things that might be a little bit not new, but people are not necessarily fully aware of, is just how aggressive we've become around helping customers overcome barriers. First and foremost, to help people achieve that most energy efficient level that their home can possibly be. So overcoming barriers, being able to have access to finance those barriers, are areas where we are focused on and have been and will continue to be in the future. And then the other thing that's coming on, I don't think hopefully if there's a lot of industry folks on the call here, heat pumps. In general, the programs have evolved. I remember when we were doing CFLs, we were screwing in CFLs,
I remember.
And so many customers also, a lot of customers were adverse to that, regardless of the savings. The quality of light, admittedly, was never the best. And the onset of LEDs right around about a decade ago, I remember National Grid let us put in 2 LEDs. And LEDs were $50 a piece. So now you're hard pressed to go to a big box store and not find predominantly LEDs. So that's what's referred to as sort of transforming the market. I've been trying to work myself out of a job since I joined energy efficiency. You're trying to transform the market and make all of this commonplace. So much of that savings, enormous amounts of savings from helping customers get off of incandescent bulbs. Energy efficient LEDs have done wonders to help the program in terms of their energy savings. And we've really, we've kind of reached a point where most people are fully converted, or they're in the process of doing a full LED conversion to their home. So that being said, what's next? What's gonna give the program substantial energy savings? What's gonna help homeowners transition into a more carbon free world, which is a benefit. It's a benefit to energy efficiency, and it's a benefit to the state of Rhode Island and just the region in general. So we see a lot of momentum around cold climate heat pumps, air source heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, for example, another thing to help reduce your electric usage. Continuing to drive high efficient appliances. It's taking bigger steps. Some of those easy things around the lighting, for example, have been done, and now we're looking to kind of help customers move into that next phase. We're not here to talk about renewables, but it is right on the precipice. Once you've done your energy efficiency work, combining some of those other efforts, particularly if you have moved over to a more electrification, puts you in a better place to reduce your overall costs in general. And that's really what we're seeing. In addition to that, making sure that we're reaching pockets of the state that might not have traditionally participated in the past, making sure that there are offers and access to the program, whether you fall into income eligible or your market rate or somewhere in between, that there's an opportunity for you to participate. And that's really where we're going to be focusing our energy and attention in coming years.
Yeah, I think also some of our lecture sessions that are going to be coming up will be focusing on some different topics. I think the reason why I really wanted to do this particular one and join in on this one was because of the fact that at the end of the day, no matter what you do in your world as a career, you always come home. And if you don't start at your own house by saving yourself money, and you don't have buy-in to this, then how can you take it elsewhere? But if you do start and you get yourself going, then it's easy for it to be a trickle effect. I will be driving down the street and see people that have incandescent light bulbs on the outside of their house. And I'm like, why? I don't even understand that. To see the transition of lighting go from incandescent to LED in the box store. When I went to Benny's. Does everybody remember Benny's? Am I dating myself? They're no longer here. Way back when, before I was energy manager, and I bought myself all of the not incandescents, the fluorescent bulbs, and I had to fill out a little application for every single one if I wanted to get it free. I counted up all the bulbs in my house. I had 36 of them, so I had to sign 36 little forms. I kind of saw immediately the savings. And I think that was my buy-in at the time. All of a sudden, that light bulb went off in my head, and I'm saying I saved $10 on my bill times 12 months. I've been living here for 10 years. That adds up. Yep. So I think that the transition is really great to see how the market is changing. People's minds are starting to change. They're going into the store and they're buying those LEDs. And hopefully now they're starting to think of bigger and better things. They're starting to think of, well, how old is my boiler? When would be a good time to actually change it out? If it's 20 years old, 15 years old, you may want to start thinking about this, and this program would be a fantastic way to do it. The other thing that really kind of intrigues me is everything that's out there for the K through 12 schools, for the small businesses. Small businesses aren't taking advantage of some of these things, and I often wonder why. I mean, if you own your own business, you're a small business, and you have the opportunity to take advantage of some of these programs and save yourself some money, I don't see why you wouldn't do it. And I think the barrier is, number one, everybody's busy finding the time, and number two, just not knowing about all the money that's out there that they could use. So I kind of wanted to see if there were any questions. I did see that there were some questions popping up. Oh, Chris, great. I see your face. So that means there have been questions and you've been paying attention to them. Maybe you could help join in this conversation.
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions. Want to start very quickly. Denise is in the chat. She's already worked with Rise, Brian, so you guys are engaged.
Okay.
She's received her light bulb. She's received her shower heads. She has Insulate to Save coming out in December. The big question is, what's next? What are they going to do when they get to her house? Which I think could be helpful for other folks on the call here.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So that's you're far down the process, and by saying that you have your bulbs, you may have been participating during COVID, where there were some constraints around us physically installing. We wanted to be as precautious as possible in terms of our PPE and our requirements inside of homes. Insulate to Save is one of our independent installation contractors that I mentioned earlier. So you're on the schedule, which is excellent, and hopefully some of those benefits will start to occur. I don't know how does the customer know what's the size of the contract, or if they're going to get walls or insulation in the attic done. But traditionally, those are some of the biggest things that occur. There should be a whole host of line items about what your home can benefit from. And we do traditionally put insulation in the attic. We will have probed the walls. Depending on the age of the home and how it's heated will sort of determine what can be expected.
I might have a little insight for you, because it was a little bit scary for me when I got that audit. It was pretty long for my own house, and I didn't know what they were going to do. And when they came here with trucks and big giant boots on and ladders on their back, I was like, oh my God, and drills. So I was very, very nervous. They did open up the hatch of my attic, which is not a walk-in attic, and they blew insulation in there, which that was a pretty simple process. But then they also blew insulation in the walls, and that was a little bit more complicated. They had to take a piece of my siding off. They had to drill holes in very strategic areas. They blew the insulation in. They covered the holes. They put the siding back in. They also went around the perimeter of my basement, and they blew in some insulation in between the cement and the framing. They put in some weather stripping around my doors. So I hope that answers her question. Did she add more?
Denise and anybody else listening, you will get an email from us after the fact with contact information from everybody. So any follow-ups, just feel free to reach out, and I'm sure that we can point you in the right direction. A little bit of a bigger picture question from Joshua in the Q&A. He wants to know, how is the work of RISE and EERMC, is it being incorporated into building codes, especially regarding insulation and weatherization? Are new homes being built more efficiently so as not to require
I can touch a little bit about that. So my clear result hat is we oversee some programs here in the state of Rhode Island. One of them is the new construction program, which is a parallel to RISE, by the way, and a parallel to the income eligible, only it's new construction. And then we also see the energy efficiency codes program, which is a little bit challenging. So we're on an older code with amendments, and we are now in the process of updating those codes. And the process is long, and I must say, rather tedious, but there's a whole team of people out here between National Grid and Clear Result and many other people on the codes committee that are very passionate about seeing that the codes are increased. So at this present time, Clear Result goes out and does blower door tests and inspections on new construction homes, and they help people go through the program, which is another program. So if you are building from the ground up, or you are building a very new addition to your home and doing some major renovations to your home, you may fit in the parameters of the new construction program and get an incentive for doing it. And our guys will do the testing, and that's part of the program, which is wonderful. There's also the stretch codes, which you can follow. Stretch codes are on OER's website, and there's commercial stretch code and residential stretch code. So if you are really passionate about codes, and I might say this, I have to follow in our instructors' path by saying that if you're building a code structure, you're building the worst possible structure that you can build legally, because the codes are a little bit behind. So there's a lot of work going on in the codes right now. And I don't know, Brian, if you can add a little bit more to that.
Sure. So it's IECC, the International Energy Code. I don't know what year we're on, but traditionally they are a few years behind. Code officials their first and foremost concern is around safety. So energy has not been on the forefront of a lot of code officials' minds. In recent years, it's improved and increased. But there are opportunities, as Karen said, in new construction, or codes plus is what it was traditionally called. I'm not familiar with what the exact incentives are, but it is designed to help you go above and beyond what would be considered a code built home. And the utilities, National Grid does run what's referred to as a user defined reference home as sort of the baseline, because homes are actually oftentimes just slightly even below where code would be. To help sort of set the benchmark for what kind of incentives they can provide. So it's really, it's an area where there's a smaller number of homes being built, but with the parameters around requiring a blower door test and getting a baseline, I believe that's required across the board. That does help folks move their process further. And in general, just a new construction home and what's required today, it's really around taking time to build it right, and sealing those gaps up and using appropriate levels of insulation. That's where you really begin to see some of the benefits. It's if it's built well, and they take time along the way to make sure that it's sealed and insulated. You end up with a really energy efficient home. If folks want to look into how they're scored and where they would look at it, they can look into HERS rating as well, which gives a deeper understanding about how that might be modeled. An individual would come out and kind of work with your architect and your builder and expose them to what the offers are, and what steps they can take or tweaks they can make to your original design to make it more efficient or to have a lower HERS score. HERS are like golf, so the lower you go, the better.
I will say this: we have HERS raters. Our guys are HERS raters. So if you need any more information about that, feel free to reach out to me. I am more than happy to help you and lead you in the right direction. I did see a question up there at a quick glance about going back to the home energy audit, though, because let's face it, we're here in Rhode Island. The majority of the home stock here is already existing. New construction is just a tiny percent of what's going on out there, but there is a program out there, so don't let that discourage you, and we can help you through that. But going back to the home energy audit, the question was something, can they have more than one audit? And I will be the first one to be able to tell you as a homeowner, yes, you can. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is it 3 years or 5 years, Brian?
I double checked with Danielle earlier, because I had a feeling this question was going to come up. It is currently 3 years. However, I will say that if you've had an energy assessment 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago, and nothing has fundamentally changed in your home, we can kickstart the process again. Your proposal just needs to be refreshed. We need to look at what the current offers are and the current incentives are, and we encourage you to reach back out to us. Nothing precludes you from still moving forward if there are opportunities, but having someone physically come back at the parameters right now that are set are for every 3 years, correct?
It's so good that you mentioned that, because if you have had an audit and were a little bit hesitant to do anything or couldn't afford to do your participant portion of it, you can always use that audit to go back and look at it again. And like he said, it can be refreshed, and then you can do the work later when it's a little bit more convenient for you in your life to do that. The other thing too is if you have done an energy audit and you're thinking about renewables, you're thinking about putting solar on your home. In order to get any incentive from National Grid for the solar piece of it, they need a current audit to make sure that you've done all of the low-hanging fruit. Oh, did I use an analogy that we weren't very happy with? Make sure that you've done all of some of the things that really should be done to make you comfortable and healthy at the time, and then move on to bigger and better things. I mean, it's like anything else in your life, you evolve as you get older. You start off with a Toyota and then you go to a Cadillac. I don't know, throughout the course of your life. So yes, the answer to the question is yes. And he confirmed it's every 3 years, and that's what I thought it was. Were there any other questions, Chris? I see you popped on again.
Karen, Brian, let's go back to heat pumps.
Yeah.
Brian, you mentioned these towards the end. We have a couple of comments and specific questions about them. We had one attendee just say they want to learn more about heat pumps.
Sure.
And then we have Greg that just came in that said that he's reading that replacing a gas heating system with a whole house heat pump will increase his energy burden.
I saw that
Is that
one.
true or untrue?
I saw that one.
Good question.
That is a good question. And so it really depends on what the price of the commodity is, in terms of, right, that's not wrong. Greg, you want to look at it. You want to bring somebody in, you want to bring a contractor in and have them do what's referred to as a manual J, or some right sizing in terms of how
Yes.
You're going to design your system. Heat pumps can be as simple as adding, if we've all seen them, those the heads on a wall in a number of rooms, or there can be a ducted heat pump system depending on how your house is configured, or a combination of the two. And you're not wrong. If it's gas, traditionally has been relatively cost effective. Very low pricing over the last decade. It's slated to go up significantly. So that story, what you've heard, might change. But at the time of the writing of that is probably not untrue, although each situation is unique. However, if you're a steward of carbon reduction, you might make that choice to say, I'm cost drives most people's decisions. So I don't disagree there. It's why there are still great incentives on high efficient gas systems. If that's your choice, if that's where you're currently at, it might be the most cost effective way for you to move forward. From a carbon standpoint, there is a push towards greater electrification, and you just kind of have to make the decision yourself on whether or not it is going to impact your costs. You're using electricity. So that is why we also ask as a precursor that folks make sure that their house is fully insulated and they've taken all those steps. The OER does have an enhanced rebate for deliverable fuels. So if you look at where the incentives drive participation around heat pumps, they're predominantly focused on electric heat. If you have existing baseboard heat, you're a prime candidate to look into a heat pump conversion, or at least adding some heads in some certain rooms. And if you have a oil-fired furnace, for example, or that might be an area where you could look into a heat pump as an alternative that would both heat and cool. They say things like it's a different kind of heat, and it kind of runs a more temperate feeling in your house. But again, you want to do your research. I recommend getting multiple quotes and different approaches, and you want to talk to somebody that knows about right sizing and doing manual J, to make sure that you're not just putting in a piece of equipment that's not appropriately sized. If it's not sized correctly, it's not going to run optimally, and you won't really see all of the true benefits. And someone needs to factor in all the different designs. We've been testing a lot of this just anecdotally. We went to a house that was oil fired, was ducted, and the customer had electric baseboard in their basement. And the engineer that was with us said that they were actually going to put the ducted system down into the basement to take the electric baseboard offline. And it was eye-opening to me that you're actually going to add capacity in one space to save on some of the electric baseboard. So you want to get somebody who's kind of looking at it from a whole house perspective. Or if you're just looking to, cover a great room or cover some aspect of a cold spot or a warm spot in your house, you can go that route as well. The incentives just might not be as rich if you
Brian, it brings me to, my old energy manager days when we were converting from oil to gas. And one of the most important things for me was to keep the burners on the boilers dual burners. So at the time, oil was much more expensive. So we were converting to gas, which was much cheaper. And then there was always the possibility that may sway. But in this particular case, when you're talking about somebody in their home, the other thing that you have to think of is if you are going to go that route, if that's the way you choose to go and you're eliminating your gas or your oil, of course your electric bill is going to go up. because you're eliminating your gas and your oil. The other thing too is right sizing. You were right on. There has to be a way to right size, and that your contractor is actually doing that and looking at the whole building science and the house as a whole. Clear Result has an HVAC program here in the state of Rhode Island and a contractor list that they work off of that you can call. And there are different scenarios. So I had somebody come in and look at putting a heat pump in. I don't have any cooling, and I thought maybe it would help offset some of the spring and fall months. So maybe I don't have to turn on my gas burner so early or leave it on so long. And what I did was I had him give me a quote on the higher end equipment. And I also knew that I had a dynamic of my house where the electric panel was on one side. They would have to go up through the ceiling, and they would have to put the electric on the opposite side of the house in order to service that particular mini split. So that added to the cost. And then we talked about, well, do we do a sub panel on the other side of the house, or do we just, tie in that mini split? So you have to look at your own house and your own situation, and you have to really think about what would be the best way to go for you, and get some really good advice about people coming and telling you what they think and getting all of those scenarios. Chris, are you waiting?
So Brian, Karen, we have around 5 minutes left. We have a couple of questions that are specific to people's homes. And for those questions, I'd recommend we will be sending an email with Karen and Brian's contact information. We'd love to chat with you all offline, but do want to end just our hour here with a general question that came in before the event even started. And the question is, how can the general public help those who can least afford high energy costs and also the costs of implementing energy efficiency? So I figured this would be a good way to end. Are there any opportunities out there for folks that want to be part of the addressing this issue?
Yeah,
I would say get involved. And usually when we end anything with the council as far as a public forum, is we ask you to get involved some way, somehow, join a committee, just go to a meeting, make your voice heard, or just listen and learn. Whatever capacity that you could do as the public that can help, I think is our obligation as a community member to do. Brian, what are your thoughts?
So yeah, I thought that this was a great question. So there are, if there's a community organization, some are focused around energy, the old People's Power and Light or Green Energy Consumer Alliance, things like that are great advocacy groups that work on behalf of everyone to help drive that. But there are also smaller organizations and immediate community groups that around language services or translation or explaining something to a homeowner that might not be aware of the offers. Advocating, as we mentioned at the top of the hour, where so many of our customers come in from referrals, really being an advocate for the programs, knowing that you have a resource. I'm drinking from a fire hose with emails all day long, but you're welcome to email me and connect me. And ultimately, we just want to help people be aware of the program and learn how to participate. Nothing is precluding someone from doing that. If they're a ratepayer, there's an opportunity. So I would leave it at that things are going to continue to evolve, but being aware of the program and promoting it and encouraging customers to take advantage of what exists today is really the best way to stay involved.
Yeah, I think also too, sometimes it helps to look at a bigger picture or a smaller picture. So you could do something as simple as let your child's school teacher know that there's a fundraiser where they can get 100% of the proceeds for their classroom. Did you know that program existed? Probably not. Or you could look at it more globally, saying this is the small part that I can do that's going to help save this planet. And let's face it, we are bumping up against extreme circumstances with our planet. And I think it's our responsibility as an individual to do whatever we can, no matter how big or small, to help the global situation. So I hope that answers the question. Is there anything else, Chris?
No, Karen, Brian, we really appreciate your time. Everybody in the attendee list, thank you so much for taking the hour out of your very, very busy schedules. We apologize for some of the tech troubles we had off the top of this event. But thank you all so much for joining us. We hope this helped start a conversation about what we can do in our own homes, our own apartments to increase some energy efficiency, save some money in the process. If you want to learn more, just head to our website. That's rieermc.ri.gov. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search Rhode Island Energy Efficiency and Resource Management Council. Karen mentioned this. We're doing a couple of more of these throughout the rest of the year. So stay tuned on that schedule, which is coming up. If we missed your question, whether it's in the chat or the Q&A, we apologize. We do have all of these saved, so we will be able to follow up with you offline. And like I said, you'll get an email from us with Brian's contact info, Karen's contact info, and if you have any more questions, we'll put them in the right hands. So thank you again, and Brian, Karen, any parting words?
I just want to ask if you would be so kind to put the survey that may follow this, if you would just take a few minutes to answer those questions. We really want to hear your thoughts. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Great job, Chris. Great job, Karen. Thank you. Thanks all.
Thank you, Brian, for joining us, and thank you all for participating.
We'll see you around.
Thank you all.
Bye.